This is our modern day homestead. It includes a large garden, a recently built farmhouse, an old pole barn, lots of kitchen gadgets, garden tools, animals, and several acres of land. Even though we have lots of conveniences and modern things, we choose to grow the majority of our food. The reason we started on this journey is because I was constantly feeling sick from what I ate. So in an effort to heal, we went all in and decided to no longer eat genetically modified, herbicide, and pesticide-laced food. So to make sure the food is actually nutritious and not just marketed as such, we grow our own and have chosen a path that is filled with hard work, but it's also incredibly rewarding. This journey didn't happen overnight, but over the last 10 years, and we have come a long way. This video is just a glimpse of what 6 weeks or 42 days of early summer is like on our homestead. It has been a couple of years since we have harvested enough strawberries that we have been able to make our own jam, and strawberry lemon jam is our very favorite. My oldest Cruz, he is constantly asking, when can we make more of that? So I'm excited that we are able to make some more this year. I personally like to go a little bit light on the sugar when it comes to jam. And this recipe, it has strawberries, lemon juice, lemon zest, honey, and I use Pomona's pectin. And if you haven't heard of that before, it's just a special kind of pectin that works well with low sugar, and it even works with the honey or like a maple syrup. So I bought a bulk amount of the Pomona's pectin. And I also, you saw at the beginning, I was making calcium water. I actually labeled it wrong. I put calcium powder on there. I mixed some of the Pomona's pectin with the honey. And then in the saucepan, I'm combining my mashed strawberries, the lemon juice, lemon zest, and the calcium water. Once those are all in there, I turn the heat on and heat it up to a full rolling boil. And once it's there, then I add that pectin and honey mixture that I already put together. And I stir that constantly to dissolve the pectin. And after that, it comes to a full boil again. And I boil that for 1 to 2 minutes and then remove it from the heat. I recently tried to dabble in making jam without pectin, and it is just so much easier to use the pectin. It just takes a couple of minutes for this to set up, and it's a lot more foolproof of a process, and the texture is a lot nicer too. Strawberries are a high acid food, so they can be safely water bath canned. I'm using an electric water bath canner for this. Regular, electric, doesn't matter, that all does the same thing. I have just been testing it out. It has its pros and cons. I really don't like that it takes forever to heat up, but what I do like is it is a little bit wider than a normal water bath canning pot, so I can fit just a little bit more.
Listen, it snaps. Delicious. Oh, they're all in the bottom. Nine peas in a pod.
Despite having to replant these peas, we did have a decent harvest this year. I would say it probably wasn't our best. And with the shelling peas, I always feel like I grow so many peas and I just can't get the amount that I want to freeze. So we really only got like 5 pounds of peas from our 2 or 3 rows that we planted for the year. We do eat a lot fresh, so we probably ate 2 or 3 pounds fresh too, and that was it. After I blanch the peas, I always intend to put those in the freezer for just a couple of hours and then vacuum seal them. And the truth is that hardly ever happens. I put them in there and then I forget about them. And a day or two later, I'm like, oh yeah, I was supposed to vacuum seal those peas or beans or whatever it is. So I did get around to doing the peas and got them vacuum sealed and then put in the freezer. As you guys know, it has been raining almost nonstop for us this year, and there have been about 3 days of dry weather, and tomorrow it is supposed to rain again. But my garlic is ready for harvest, so I want to make sure that I harvest it right now while the soil is dry, because if it rains again, then there is a chance that the garlic would rot. I've already had enough things rot this year, so I'm just gonna try and avoid that and harvest what I need to right now. I have hardneck garlic that needs to be harvested. My softneck garlic is not ready yet. I went into the tunnel and grabbed my trowel so I could pull out this garlic, and then I cleaned out the wheelbarrow, and I look over and I'm like, shoot, it looks like it's gonna rain. Like, I think I got 10 minutes about, and I feel really bad too, because right now I can hear my neighbor over this way. He's doing hay right now. He's raking his hay up, so oh, this rain is crazy. I just witnessed something that I don't think I have ever seen before. That storm cloud moved from the south to the north without coming eastward hardly at all. So I think it's actually going to miss us and not rain on us, which is a miracle for sure.
Okay, we just pulled out a whole row of spring lettuce that I'm gonna take down to the pigs. We couldn't eat it fast enough. There was just a lot there, and so we gave some away. We ate what we could. Salad 3 meals a day kind of gets old, so we're gonna see if the pigs will take it. Pretty sure they will, because they've done it in the past, and just gonna check on the pigs and hang out with them for a little bit. So they like the lettuce, of course. I knew they would, but it's just fun to see them help us have zero waste in the garden, pretty much. What do you think, Bear? You like these little guys? They're about your size. Walking back to the house, and it looks like we lost one. Oh, he's up, but he's fading. Looks like pigs were too much for him. That's okay.
I am getting a garden bed prepped and ready for planting parsnips. I put parsnips in my seed time calendar so that I would remember when to plant them, and I got a little reminder that now is the time to plant. So I'm excited. Hopefully we get some this year and everything works out.
I got our beehive at the same time a friend of mine up the road got theirs. We got them from the same person. I was getting a little frustrated over the past 3 or 4 weeks because my buddy, his bees started producing and growing immediately and everything was looking fine and he spotted his queen. I couldn't find mine. They were kind of slow to get going and I was like, gee, should I have like some duds or something? Fast forward to now, like 4 weeks later, mine are doing just fine. So I'm out here to add some more boxes so they don't swarm and they can fill that and then we'll get honey sometime soon. So bees are cool. And I've been stung twice and I didn't cry. That's good. I'm gonna get out of here.
Summertime on the homestead is an incredibly busy time of year. We are gardening, harvesting, preserving, taking care of the animals, getting projects finished, and taking care of our family. So there is just so much to be done, and at the end of each day, we are exhausted and just want to fall into bed and sleep. So a huge thank you to Birch Living for sponsoring today's video. 2.5 years ago, we upgraded our mattress to a Birch Luxe mattress, and a big motivation behind doing that was wanting to have a mattress that was all natural and didn't have any harmful off-gassing. Birch mattresses are made with natural latex, organic cotton, and organic wool. One other thing that we love is it is so hot outside and we actually keep our house pretty warm in the evening as well. And this mattress, it doesn't sleep too hot or too cold. It is just right, like the Goldilocks of mattresses. So it's very nice and breathable for the summertime. Sleep is so important to your health, and I am very glad that we have the Birch mattress so that we can get a good night of rest and have the health benefits of good sleep and a natural mattress as well. So if you're looking for a new mattress or just want to upgrade your current mattress to a more natural option, check out Birch Living. They have extended their 4th of July sale and have given me an exclusive discount code for you guys. Use code BirchPartner27 for 27% off your mattress, or you can just click my link down in the video description, visit birchliving.com/seasonal homestead to take advantage of this limited time offer.
When it's tall enough, yeah.
We have spent the last couple of days getting these garden beds prepped and ready for planting tomatoes, and hopefully we have enough room for peppers. To do that, we had to rake out some of the plant debris that was here from last season, and then we took our BCS with the rotary plow attachment and we took that through the walking paths. So it just took that dirt from where we walk and it put it on top of the garden bed. After that was done, I added some fertilizer and we weeded a little bit, and then we put paper down to prevent weeds and staked it all in. So over this weekend it rained a lot and that paper had time to get wet and shrink, because the paper shrinks a little bit, so it's good to have it just settle a little bit first before planting. And this kind of paper, it doesn't have the holes in it, so we just need to cut slits in it and then plant those tomatoes, and we're going to be planting them about 2 feet apart. I think these are Roma tomatoes, and if we have room for the peppers, we're going to be planting them 18 inches apart. I was checking on my green beans and it looks like they are ready to pick, so we're gonna do our first round of harvesting right now. This first harvest of green beans is always the best because the green beans are all at this perfect maturity level where they are not overly mature and too tough. So I usually use the first harvest just for fresh eating. We're actually gonna eat most of these for dinner tonight because I'm not gonna get all of this done today. I've been going for like 45 minutes and I'm like a quarter of the way done with this 50-foot row. But when I do pick tomorrow, I'm going to freeze those ones because it's these very tender ones that are perfect for freezing. Once I get to that second harvest, then things start to get a little bit tougher. I'll get a few that are like slightly over mature. Those are the ones that are perfect for canning because canning softens everything up, so you really can't tell the difference between a very tender green bean and one that was picked a little bit over mature. It's the beginning of July and all of the plants are growing so fast, which is awesome, but that also means that the weeds are growing very fast and the bugs are exploding with growth too. So I was walking around the garden this morning and I realized I have a major issue that needs to be addressed, and that is in this tunnel. I planted some summer squash and I planted a variety that I had never grown before. It's called Denise. It produced some squash, but it is just a magnet for the squash bugs in a way that I have never seen before. And I have my winter squash and pumpkins right next to it, so those squash bugs are just all over those as well. And I need to pull out the summer squash and get rid of those before the squash bugs kill my pumpkins too. So it was a good experiment, but the plants are coming out right now. I am going to plant another variety. I can still get another harvest towards the fall if I plant another one right now. So I'm gonna plant it somewhere else, not in the same spot. And once I get these plants out of here, Noelle is gonna come in and she said she wanted to duct tape squash bugs and eggs. So she's gonna try and get off what she can on the winter squash and pumpkins. I should clarify, this particular type of squash is not one that I normally grow. I usually grow from the other squash family because it does better with squash bugs, but I really wanted to try this one out. Over the last 20 years or so of gardening, what I have learned is not to hang on to plants for too long. If they're not doing well, there's a very high likelihood they're not going to bounce back and they're just taking up space. And I'd rather grow something that actually produces really well and doesn't cause problems. So I have no problem ripping these out. We harvested our garlic a couple of weeks ago and it is ready to be cleaned up and put away. We let it dry in our third garage this time around. We've done it in all different places. Cam set up a drying space where he just screwed in different boards and put the garlic in it upside down. It works really well to conserve space, and it also helps the garlic to have a lot of air circulation. So now that they're dry, we need to make room for the soft neck garlic, and I also have onions that are ready. We've got a lot that needs to be rotated into here, and what we're gonna do to clean up the garlic is I just trim off the roots. And since this is hardneck garlic, I am not going to braid the top because you can't really do that. You can bunch them, but it takes up a lot of space. So I'm actually just gonna snip off the stems and put them in a container, and then we will take those inside, and that will give us enough space to dry out the soft neck garlic and hopefully get some of the onions in here in the next couple of days. We are definitely going to need to set up another area for the onions because there are a lot of them and they're a lot bigger than the garlic too. I've been wanting to experiment with making a mixed berry jam. Right now I have strawberries, blueberries, and blackberries all ripe at the same time. My strawberries are on the tail end, so I'm going to take this opportunity to make that jam. And I'm also trying to do this without pectin today, which is going to be my first time ever doing that, especially with berries, which have lower amounts of pectin. So I am going to use more sugar than I normally would, just because I want to make sure that this sets. And I also have a candy thermometer that I'm going to use to hopefully get this right. I added about 3.5 cups of mashed berries and then 3 cups of sugar, which is a lot of sugar compared to what I normally add, a lemon zest, and then about 1/4 cup of fresh lemon juice into this. While the sugar was dissolving, I got all of my canning stuff ready to go. This is my water bath canner because berries are high acid. Plus, with the added lemon juice, I was sure that this was safe for the water bath canning. After about 10 or 15 minutes of having the sugar and the fruit simmer, I brought it up to a boil. And this is where it got really interesting because I was doing this all by myself. I am my own camera person the majority of the time. And while the fruit and sugar mixture was boiling and I was stirring and moving my camera, I accidentally scorched part of this jam. And I was really bummed about that, but I quickly turned it off and realized it was just a small little portion on the bottom of the pan. So I made sure not to disturb it or scrape it, and then I poured in the rest of the jam into the jars and got them canned. I was kind of thinking this whole thing was a big flop until a couple of days later, I decided to open up a jar and see how it turned out, and it did set really well, and it didn't have a burnt flavor either, so that was a win. My onions always look really good until we hit the heat of the summer, and then they start to have problems because of disease. And that's what's happening right now. So I need to get these out of the ground and get them drying right away. I got one garden bed of onions pulled out, and I just laid them flat on the ground. That is not a good spot for them to stay for 2 reasons. One is by noon, they will be in direct sun, and that sun basically just cooks the onions and then they get a soft spot on them. The other reason is the ground is slightly moist and they just need a very dry area to cure. So I'm going to take them into the garage for right now. Cam is going to build me another drying rack similar to what we used for the garlic because that works so well. So I'm going to load them in the wheelbarrow and get them to the garage. We put a lot of effort into growing garlic and onions each year, and then when it comes time to harvest, I'm usually not ready and we have to slap together some sort of makeshift drying area. The end result is not so good for the longevity of the garlic and onions. And one thing I noticed right away when I was cleaning up that already dried garlic is that the new drying rack that Cam made, it worked amazing. Cam, he got those 2x6s for like 50 cents a piece because they were leftovers from a job site. So making 2 sawhorses and the cross bracing that holds the garlic or the onions, it costed us only about $4. If you were to buy the lumber from a hardware store, it would be about $50. Either way, I think it's a worthwhile investment if it means having your garlic or onions last longer. And Cam actually has a full tutorial of how this is made on his channel, and I will link that down in the video description. We finished cleaning up all the hardneck garlic, and now we're gonna weigh it and see how much we got.
28 and a half.
We did our initial harvest of green beans. I brought them in and weighed them. We got about 9 pounds from that, and then I blanched and froze those.
And I knew there was more out there, so I did a second harvest late at night and chopped them up, got them all prepped. And so this what I have here is maybe a third of what I harvested that we're gonna pressure can and freeze. And before we do that, we're gonna weigh them all. On top. Oh, come on. Okay. 28 even.
So I am a big fan of frozen green beans, and Cam is a big fan of canned green beans. So because we have different preferences, we preserve them both ways. And last year, Cam decided that he was going to spearhead canning the green beans all by himself for the first time ever. He had pressure canned before, but he had never done it 100% by himself. At the time, I was pregnant and I was taking a nap. I actually had no idea that he had decided to can these green beans. And I woke up to a very loud sound and Cam yelling. And when I ran out to the kitchen, I found out he had accidentally let the pressure get too high and the safety button on the pressure canner had popped off so that the steam could escape. And just the sound plus seeing all of the steam and stuff, it was really pretty scary. So this year, Cam was brave enough to try again, but he wanted me to stand by just to make sure everything was good, and thankfully there were no issues this time around. So while those green beans were processing in the pressure canner, Cam took the remaining green beans and then he blanched them. We always lay them on towels to get them to dry out a little bit before we vacuum seal them, and then he put them in the freezer. We like to do about 1 pound or 1.5 pounds of green beans in each of these vacuum sealed bags. So from our total harvest of green beans so far, we have 16 bags of frozen green beans and we have 18 pints of canned green beans.
Okay, so we have the drying racks ready, and now we're out here harvesting the onions. We saw the weather forecast said it was going to rain tonight, so it's one of those times this has to be done, right?
Yep, so we already got the one garden bed finished, and we just need to we have one full garden bed and like 3/4, and it should go pretty fast, and then we'll get them inside and get them drying. After watching this, you might be wondering if all the work is worth it. The truth is, we do live a beautiful life, and that's not to say it isn't hard or we don't have struggles, because we certainly do. But we have found purpose in living off the land, in watching things grow, and in producing and creating rather than consuming. There is no such thing as a perfect balance, but in the end, we strive to be close to the soil, close to the work that gives life meaning, and in doing so, we become closer to our ultimate creator. That's what really matters most. We don't get it right every day. Some days we feel behind and burnt out, and some days the weeds win and the bugs win, but we keep showing up for the land, for our family, and for this life that we believe in. And yes, it's worth it. Not because it's easy, but because it's rooted in something deeper.